Hey Pioneers, so today I'm talking to you guys about my faith journey, my Christianity journey, and a little bit about my background so you kind of understand how I got here. So I grew up Baptist and African Methodist Episcopal, you know the word. So my grandfather was a part of the Baptist church. He was part of AME at one point, but when I was growing up, he was more Baptist, and my nana is more AME. So my grandfather and my nana are my father's parents, and I grew up interacting with them, but also my mom's side of the family. My mom is Baptist, goes to Baptist church, and my dad preached a little bit Baptist. And it's also important to note that my grandfather is currently a reverend and has been preaching most of his life, and my nana has played the organ for most of my life at her church. So I grew up in a very church heavy background. My great grandmothers did not play that and went to church every Sunday. Church hats galore, Baptist all up in that thing. So needless to say, we was in there. We was in that thing. I was in the church a lot. But even though I didn't really feel like my own personal connection and relationship to God for a while. So I was going to church, going through the motions, going to Sunday school, learning a lot. And I believed in God for sure, thought he was there and believed in Jesus Christ and everything. But I didn't really have that personal relationship. And so I would see the communion plate being passed around everywhere. And I was just like, bruh, I want some juice and crackers. Yes, it can be noted, I was a little kid. I wanted some juice and crackers. And I was thinking being prepared because, everybody I knew was in the church. So I was all over the church. So I was just like, okay, how do I get these juice and crackers? And then my mom was like, you have to be baptized in order to take communion. And I was just like, bet. So then I talked to my sister and I was like, so we should get baptized because I really want communion. Not for communion's sake, but because I just wanted some juice and crackers. I wanted to feel adult in that one moment. And so she was like, okay, cool. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do it next Sunday. So we plotted and schemed to get baptized for the wrong reasons. Well, she might have had a good reason. I was just, again, I wanted the juice and crackers. We get baptized and, I got dunked and I didn't feel different initially, but I honestly feel like that is a very pivotal moment for my own experience with faith and my journey and everything like that, because I feel like if I wouldn't have gotten baptized then my life could have taken a completely different trajectory, because a few weeks after I got baptized, my dad passed away. And so you'll find out in a later video, like me and my dad were really close and it was really hard with him passing away, especially close to the holidays. So I think God was, even though we still didn't have a relationship, God was a really good anchor, and the Holy Spirit interceded on my behalf on so many different occasions after that. I wouldn't say I was bad or anything, but I think I went through my own little grief halts and depression. And so it was really hard for me to find anything positive in life in general. I just felt like my favorite person in the world was taken away from me. And I never, oddly enough, was like, oh, God did this and God's punishing me. I just didn't understand why, especially because I assumed that my father would be the last person that I would end up with, parent wise. I was like, oh, my nana's probably gonna pass away, my mom's gonna pass away, my dad's gonna be left. It's gonna be me and him in my 50s and 60s, just kicking it. So to go from that to he's dead at 12, major shift. So I feel like, I still obviously went to church, still did those things, but I think that made it hard for me to get close to God because I didn't know if I could trust him. I was like, how can I trust you if you took the most important person in the world to me away from me? And so we continued on like that, just going to church, going through the motions. And I would have little connections here and there, but it wasn't until college that I really kind of started forging a relationship. And I felt like before college, I was kind of this dirty sinner going through the motions, didn't really understand why God would even love us. I was just like, I mean, I'm trash. All I do is sin. What do you mean? Or I'd see people who would be sinners, we're all sinners, but they would do that and then go to church on Sunday and be all like, oh, I'm holy, and then Monday doing every single breaking all 10 commandments, not that drastic, but I was just like, this doesn't add up. This doesn't make sense to me. So I really just was like, eh. And then I went to this church where, this Lutheran church, where it was preached more on a gospel level. So it was like, yes, the law, God gave us the law for a reason, but the gospel was where we get God's grace, where we get redeemed, where I no longer felt like, oh, I'm just a dirty, dirty sinner. I was like, oh, so I'm actually like forgiven. God gives me grace. Like, I'm okay. I mean, I'm not like okay, but I am okay. You know, like it's okay to be me. And I think that was important because I had never felt like I could be me, especially in the church. I felt like I always had to be this perfect version of myself, dot my Christian I's, cross my Christian T's, and be on my best behavior. Especially coming from like a father who was a pastor, a grandfather who's a reverend, a nana who played the organ for the church, great grandmothers saying like you have to be, you know, I just felt like, oh my God, I have to be this perfect version. But that allowed for me to have the space to embrace more of who I am and who God created me to be. So I was going through that church. I actually started having a relationship with God. I talk to God all the time, and now I do. He probably wants me to shut up at this point, or maybe he doesn't. Maybe he likes my ramblings. But I started talking to God more, praying to God more, and really forging my own relationship with him. And then I graduated and had to move back home. So I didn't have a church home back home. And I was just like, ooh, this is awkward. There was a church my mom went to occasionally, but it wasn't like a back in the day, every single Sunday, like Sunday school, like we in church. So I was just like, I don't really know what to do here. So I didn't go to church. I looked into some things, but I was just like, no, because I was Lutheran. So I tried a few Lutheran churches. You know, I was like, I like this message, I like this vibe, but I think it was hard to find that same feeling because when I literally walked in the church, I felt like home. And so I was trying to find churches that felt like home, but I could not replicate that feeling to save my life. It was so frustrating because I was like, dang, I want this back. But I believe that that had more to do with the people and less to do with the actual church. And I didn't know that. So I was like, let me look, let me see. And then I came across this church of this woman that I had been watching her YouTube videos. And I was like, oh, cool, you know, I like her. Don't know if I like her husband preaching. So let's go to this church and see if we like her husband preaching. So I went to that church, and a lot of what he was preaching reminded me of a blog that I had started, Pioneer Faith. And so I was like, oh, these aligned. I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. I had asked God about it, but I think I was too hasty in giving him an answer instead of actually waiting on him to answer me. So I was like, I'm gonna try this church for a month. It's totally fine. And then I joined, and I was like, okay, we're in here. And I was serving my face off with the kids, setting up stuff. Like I was a part of it, like head, but I still didn't feel that connection to God that I had felt in the Lutheran church and Lutheran space. And I was just like, well, what's going on? Like, what's missing? Like, why is this like this? And then I kind of went through my own little dark spell, and I felt like I needed to pull away from the church. I felt like I was not getting fed like I was supposed to, so I stopped going. And then I found myself thinking, well, maybe I'm just spiritual. Maybe I just, love God and believe in God, and there's just not a space for me to be me, do what I want to do, say what I want to say, and it be okay. Let it be known, I am dramatic. Yes, that's fair. So I went a few months like that until my friend was like, and I visited her church a few times. She was like, I feel like God has told me on multiple times that you should be going to my church. And I was just like, I don't know about that, because at her church, they was like talking in tongues, prophesying, delivering people from demons. And I had never like seen that to the degree that it was at her church. And I was just like, I don't know if this is like of the Lord, even though I'm in the Bible, Jesus literally does all of those things. But I was just like, this feels weird. I don't know. I don't like this. It did feel weird. But I was like, maybe this is something. Maybe, God's telling you something that maybe I need to hear. So then, I waited a few Sundays, and I was like, okay, God, I'm going to go. I'm going to visit her church, and we're going to see what's up. So I visited the church, and the first Sunday, edges snatched. And so when I say edges snatched, I mean like preaching was on fleek and I felt attacked in the best way. You know, in the way that's like, dang, I didn't know I need to work on that guy, but like, okay, I guess now I'm in a space where I'm okay with like God calling me out. So I'm like, okay, cool. So then, you know, I went a few more Sundays. Again, Ed just snatched every single Sunday. I'm just like, dang, I didn't know I needed like this. And I felt so like spiritually fed, spiritually supported. And it felt like I could be authentically me in that space and it'd be okay. I could be weird. I could be awkward. I could be goofy, silly, whatever I wanted to be. And everybody was just like, hi, we love you. It's totally fine. And I'm just like, what? So needless to say, I joined the church and here we are. Christianity has obviously been a part of my life since birth. I have gone through a lot of different transitions with Christianity, but I think the important thing is that a lot of people will sometimes give up on the process and be like, oh, stay in that, like, I'm just going to be spiritual space, which is can become very easy to stay there and just be like, you know what, I can't find what I'm looking for exactly, I'm just going to be spiritual. Makes sense. But I want this to be an encouragement for people that you can find that church home, you can find a place that you feel like you can be authentic. And if that's not in, you know, one of these places around here, I hope that by watching my videos that you feel that you can be authentically you, transparently you, and that there's judgment-free zone. Like, you are who God created you to be. You're a work in progress, just like we all are. And I don't have a heaven or hell to put anybody in. That's God. God created those. I did not. So there's no place for me to judge you. I hope that you will subscribe to my channel to see more. I believe we have some good stuff coming up, or at least some juicy stuff about me. And then you can go to my Instagram at Pioneer Faith and see more of me and more of a mental health aspect of things. And I can't wait to see you guys next Monday.